We are freaking live. Oh my gosh. We're freaking live. What's going on, freaking mother flowers? Here, let me take care of this shit. Let me mute this shit. All right. I don't know where this shit is coming from. Where's the music coming from? Here we are. Get out of here. Turn the music off. All right. Freaking live over here, guys. So tonight we're going to be talking about CBRN / NBC. Now, some of you cats might be familiar with NBC acronyms. Some of you cats might be familiar with the NBC. Some of you might be familiar with the CBRN. I don't know which one I just said, but CBRN is chemical, radiological, biological, nuclear. CBRN, chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear. I don't know why they did the radiological and nuclear. They couldn't put it into one, but these guys with their acronyms. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about NBC, okay? Same thing, but if you're an older cat like me or even older than me, you're going to be more familiar with the term NBC, nuclear, biological, and chemical, which I think makes more sense. So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. We got a really smart cat coming on by the name of Brandon Helsley. Now, Brandon spent a bunch of time in the Marine Corps. And while he was in the Marine Corps, he got to go through extensive training on CBRN. He actually took some of the specialist courses. Now, I don't think his MOS was that, but for whatever reason, he was lucky enough to go through a bunch of their training. So we've been talking on Instagram a little bit, and he said, you know, I'd be glad to come on and give your audience, so to speak, some real tips and pointers that go beyond just the basics, everyday stuff that we all know about. Now, with that being said, guys, I am going to start the lesson or the interview, the podcast, whatever. I'm going to be starting that at 8 p.m. EST. All right. So right now the time is 7:47 Eastern Standard Time. The interview is going to commence at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Gosh damn, I can't talk tonight. But that's what's going to go down. Apocalypse, what's up, bro? DJ, what's up, bro? Now, while I've got you captive audience waiting for this mother flower, I do want to recommend you guys that if you want supplemental stuff, if you want supplemental material on how to survive a CBRN or NBC incident, DJ and I put together a really nice packet in the form of a PDF over on the gutterfightingsecrets.com website. All right, check it out. We got a bundle PDF all about how to survive an NBC incident that also bundles in with it a bunch of really cool civil defense manuals. And we put that on there for a really great price, guys. So check it out. If you're interested, you can always donate to the channel if you find our content of value and you want to help the channel grow and stay alive. Then you can always go ahead, check out the gutterfightingsecrets.com website. We've got plenty of great products on there that you could purchase if you are so inclined to buy something from us. And if nothing interests you, you can always just hit the donate button and help us out that way. Also, super chats are always welcome while we are live. Apocalypse, you've already given us too much money, man. I can't accept anything else from you. So don't even think about it. But everybody else out there is welcome to give us super chats. We are always appreciative of them. So with that being said, guys, I'm going to get into some news. All right. Before we go live, I'm going to get into some news. But right before I hit the news, I've got a really big announcement. We are doing a super, super dope giveaway. The giveaway is a fully stocked bug out bag. And I'm not talking some bullshit piece of shit bug out bag. I'm personally packing a really nice bug out bag, like a high-end bag with high-end freaking products in there. Okay. And I'm going to be giving this away for free. The value, what's the value of it? Some people want to know, like, well, how much is it worth? Probably a few $100 with all the equipment and all the supplies in it. I mean, it's going to have everything. So we're giving that away. We're also giving away a Bear Grylls machete. Okay, it's a Gerber Bear Grylls machete. Pretty high-end stuff, guys. What do you got to do in order to be entered into the giveaway? Pretty simple. All you need to do is go ahead and join the YouTube channel. I'm not saying subscribe, okay? Because if I were to do this, I'd have like 8,000 plus people like that I'd have to contend with. No, I'm saying all you got to do is become a site member, right? So there should be a little icon down there somewhere where it says, join the channel. And if you want to go ahead, $3 a month. Honestly, right now with inflation, way less than a price of coffee, right? One fucking cup of coffee a day equals a bunch of this. And gosh damn, I can't talk. 1 cup of coffee a month doesn't even touch $3 a month. So if you want to support the channel and get entered into the giveaway with a chance to win a fully stocked bug out bag or a Gerber Bear Grylls machete, you can certainly do that. So let's get into some of the news. Now, all of this news is over at Gutter Fighting Secrets Instagram, at Gutter Fighting Secrets. Actually, I'm sorry. It's on the Gutter Fighting Secrets backup page. So all you got to type in is at Gutter Fighting Secrets backup, at Gutter Fighting Secrets backup. We had to do that because they totally shadow banned the other page. Nobody can see it. But we put news out all day on our story, okay? All day, all night. News is coming out on our story. We're very proud of that. People really, really enjoy the news. I've got people coming up to me personally, even at places where I work and like my jiu-jitsu academy. They're going, we love the news. Like, you got to give us more news. All right. So that's all we put out on our story. Usually is the news. So Ukrainian drivers near Borodoyenka of Kyiv region drive over landmines. Now, you might be tempted to say, they're driving over landmines, they're dying. No. Here, check this shit out. They're literally like navigating over landmines. Crazy, right? They're forced to drive over these freaking things. So just something to think about, guys. Second largest man-made reservoir in the country has dropped to unthinkable lows amid West's climate change-driven mega drought. Whatever. But it's true. Lake Powell is like incredibly low. There's pictures on Twitter of like, you would think it's like the freaking drought of the dinosaurs or whatever. It's crazy. Crazy video shows runner gets sucker punched at a Florida high school track meet. It's true. This runner's jogging along and a hoodlum comes up behind them and back of the head. And they go down. We've got elevated space weather risks right now. We've got elevated space weather risks actually as of last night, which ended up turning into a geomagnetic storm, which is in progress with technological and health alerts. So UK spy chief says that Putin misjudged his invasion of the UK. And I'm sure you guys are going to be hearing about this, but, it looks like allegedly the Western intelligence people are saying that Putin's generals and his information ministers weren't really giving him kind of the best information. They were a little bit scared to tell him the real deal. They misled him. And so Putin looks like he could be kind of backing away at this point. We'll see what happens. He's either backing away, in my opinion, or he's reconsolidating his forces. They did just draft a whole lot of new conscripts. And Germany and Austria have taken the first formal steps towards gas rationing after a payment dispute with Russia, because Russia now wants all of the payments for the natural gas to come in the form of rubles, which actually today the ruble went up. So yeah, so Russia drafts 134,500,000 conscripts, but says they won't go to the Ukraine. An ice shelf the size of Rome has collapsed in the Antarctic. And climate change or not, I don't care. I don't think that this thing is going to really do much of anything, but hey, I'm no climate expert. So you guys tell me down in the comments what you think about that. Now, the woke army reducing its numbers in the face of recruiting difficulties. The Army this week admitted it was having problems recruiting and announced an unprecedented reduction in its numbers that would shrink active duty Army to its smallest size since pre-World War II. My, oh my, just as we are getting threatened left and right by Iran and Russia and freaking the dickhead North Korea, little Rocket Man, and everyone else, now we're just diminishing our forces. You know, it seems to me like someone just literally wants to end America, but hey, what do I know? M-class solar flare is currently in progress with minor radio blackout and health alerts. Now, that's actually different. There has been 2 solar flares in the past 24 hours, guys. Something to keep in mind. We also have an interesting article over there that I can't read here, but it's about how Custom Border Patrol officers go ahead and spot phony, fake contraband at the airports when it's coming through. So if you want to learn more about that, check out the story on @GutterFightingSecretsBackup on Instagram. Ukraine state nuclear firm says most Russian forces have left Chernobyl nuclear plant. Okay, they're pulling out of that region. Where they're going? Well, supposedly they're heading toward the Belarusian border. I can't confirm that. I certainly can't deny it, but that's the information that we are getting at this point. So it does look to me like Russia's starting to pull back a bit. So we will see what happens. Do I think the draft is coming? No, not yet. I don't think so. Not yet. Delta Airlines health chief thinks that airplane mask mandate will soon be lifted. Now, if you remember correctly, about a month ago, all of these CEOs from all of these different airlines wrote the Biden administration a letter saying we need to end these mandates. They're stupid. But Biden has kept extending it and extending it. Why? I don't know. But they certainly seem they seem to love the masks. These liberals, I'll tell you that. They really love their masks. It's fine. Keep them on. I don't want to look at their fucking face. That's it, guys. That's the news, at least as of 7:58 p.m. on March 31st, 2022. We will be adding constantly to our news stories, so stand by. And again, if you're interested in up-to-the-minute breaking news, definitely check out @GutterFightingSecrets Backup. Let's see how many people we got on the stream, guys. We're just going to wait here about 2 mics because we got our specialist coming on. Now, until he does, I'm going to play a little bit of music, just like always, so that I'm not just aimlessly talking at you, and we will get it going. So if you guys who are viewing this afterwards, hang through this, and if you want to skip through it, then you can always fast forward about 2 or 3 minutes through the music. So let's get this going, guys. We're going to go ahead, play a song, give some people a little bit of time to trickle in, and so be it. We will hit it up, and we will bring on Brandon. Talks about nuclear, biological, chemical, and radiological, or if you have common sense, NBC attacks, and how to survive through it. All right, guys. Stand by. All right, all right, all right. What's going on, man? Let me get this damn music out of here. Brandon, what's going on, man? Looks like you got your audio muted.
You're right.
All right, all right, all right. Here we are, man. So, how are you, sir? I appreciate you coming on here.
Yeah, no problem. Like I said, I actually snuck in on one of your stories on Instagram. You brought it up. I was like, you know, it's a good idea with everything going on right now. It's actually pretty good to talk about it.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you did, man, because some people, you know, they don't want to go back and forth on the DMs or whatever. Let me get this, let me figure out what's going on here with this technical difficulties. Boom, boom. All right. Anyway, that's weird. All right, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I'm glad you did, man, because some people don't like to go back and forth in the DMs, but I really appreciate you taking the time because I know that we were going to do this about a week or two earlier when the whole nuclear threat was really kind of amped up, and I ended up getting busy. You ended up getting busy, and we couldn't do it. But hopefully you've made some extra notes for our guys and girls out there viewing, and we're stoked to talk to you about it.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I mean, I was in the Marine Corps for 4 years. I ended up being a sergeant in the infantry, and I did a specialized course in CBRN that basically our division put together. And I kind of took off with it. I took my interest. And I was like, you know what, this is actually some cool stuff to learn. You know, I got out. Now I've been pursuing an engineering degree, and it's actually some of it's carried over. So it's an interesting topic.
It really is, man. First of all, thanks for your service. Second of all, making sergeant in the Marine Corps, that's pretty cool. I definitely admire that. You must have really learned your warrior craft pretty well.
It can be a fun time. Got a effort in, I guess.
And going through this CBRN class, man. So before we jump into it, tell us more about kind of how long was the course? What did you guys cover? Who was it designed for?
So the course was only about a month long, but I mean, you were TAD, so TAD in the military means you're separated completely from your company. So no longer are you waking up and doing your normal stuff. I mean, your only obligation is to be there. So you don't worry about anything else. So yeah, it's about a month long. It was put together by our CBRN officers. So like every battalion and every division has a CBRN officer. He's a warrant officer. That's what he specializes in. And really, it was designed for military usage, but you picked up some little skills for the individual, like what we'll be talking about. A lot of it was like, you know, if we're in an operational setting, how are we going to get around this obstacle? Because that's all CBRN is. It's an obstacle. So we're doing like decon stations. So basically, let's say we take a convoy out of, I don't know, 4 or 5 Humvees. You have to be able to decontaminate those Humvees. You have to be able to protect those Humvees. I mean, you can't just obviously throw them away when you're done because you only have so many. I mean, it's a resource just like everything else. So yeah, we would spend every day, all day long, just practicing this stuff. And then we would also obviously go through detection techniques. We would go through, you know, ways to basically be able to detect and mark off areas that are contaminated so we know to be able to avoid them for future usage. We went through all the different devices. So obviously CBRN is not based solely on radioactivity or nuclear threats like what we're talking about. I mean, you have obviously the biological threat and the chemical threat there as well, which are both pretty dangerous.
Now, as far as the biological threat, I mean, we should all be fairly familiar with what to do about that these days, right? I mean,
yeah, we got a little bit of experience in the past 3 years on that.
Did they go through anything else with you about dealing with biological stuff that might not be as common sense to us at this point?
I know, not really. I mean, a lot of it's specialized stuff. I mean, so obviously we have like devices obviously to detect that stuff, and then we have I mean, they're high-tech devices. I mean, stuff like you couldn't buy. But then we also have detection paper. So basically, it's paper you wrap around your wrist. And when it changes colors or it reacts to the air, then you know, okay, you're in an area that's contaminated. I mean, but basically, it's almost the same thing. Obviously, an N95 or a surgical mask isn't going to protect you against a nerve agent. You're done. You're going to need a full face gas mask and a suit for that. mean, yeah, but it's just that kind of stuff.
Now, did they go over the different levels of suits and things like that with you guys?
Yeah. So we have four. It's called MOP, MOPP. So we had four MOP levels. We have MOP 1, MOP 2, MOP 3, and MOP 4. And MOP 4 is a full getup. I mean, so you're wearing a suit, boots, gloves, a hood, and a full face gas mask, which we had the Avon M50s, which is a proprietary mask with 2 filters on it. You can run it with 1 filter, but it's almost impossible to use like that. And that course we would spend, obviously, because he's trying to, you guys are, when you go through this course, you're supposed to be an SME when you get out. So he would make us spend all day, and this is like in the California summer, in MOP level 4. I mean, you're wearing your camis obviously underneath, so blouse, boots, trousers, and then you have, rubber gloves, rubber boots, and a full face gas mask on over top all of that, and then your CBRN suit, and you're sweating like crazy. It's already 110 degrees out. And a lot of this stuff, so like the decontamination stations for the vehicles, when you're practicing that, like we're out like on the blacktop doing this stuff all day long. So it was a good time. You would take off your gas mask and you'd have a whole sweat roll out of it. Good time.
I don't envy you guys doing that out there, man. Were you over in the part of California where it's just like you said, like hot as fucking balls out there?
Pretty much all of California is like that in the summertime. So I was at Camp Pendleton. So 29 Palms is the bad one.
That's right. That's the one I'm thinking about.
Yeah. 29 Palms is just nothing else out there.
I bet you guys had to would you like slam Gatorades in between or something like that?
Well, yeah, I mean, but the gas mask has the M50 does at least, it has a drink tube on it. So they issue canteens, obviously, which we never use them because they're all reused.
Yeah.
But for that situation, like you bleach it out because you have to use it. We'd have a specific canteen that has an NBC cap on it, they call it. It's a black cap. And it's made specifically to attach to the drink tube on your gas mask. And there's a little switch on the front of your gas mask, and you switch it, and a drink tube comes over, meets your mouth, and then you just hook it up, and you can drink out of your canteen without ever having to break the seal on your gas mask or anything.
So would you recommend that if guys and girls out there who are prepping and getting ready for whatever, probably get the damn canteen attachment with the gas mask if you think you're wearing it?
Yeah, if their gas mask has that. I wouldn't recommend the N50 for most people because, like I said, it's a proprietary filter, whereas NATO, for the most part, is still operating on a 40 millimeter thread. N50 is a bayonet style, and it's a very weird bayonet style, so it's not like something you can go buy off the shelf, and the filters are extremely expensive for it. So what is there's one of the companies I see all the time. They're putting out some pretty good stuff. The CM7 is one of their models.
Oh, is it Mira Safety?
Mira. Yeah, Mira Safety. Yeah, they make some pretty decent stuff. Avon's good, but like I said, I mean, they pretty much cater basically to the military. I mean, they're not here to help me or you.
I had nothing but good experiences with Mira Safety, man. I ordered a gas mask from them during the height of the pandemic, and other than the fact that it took forever to get here, they were a great company to deal with. So yeah,
they are. They're pretty cool, and they like making jokes on the internet too. They like to make fun of like Avon and all those people, and they're pretty interactive. So they're cool.
They are. Now, while we're on the subject of gas masks, I got a couple more questions for you that, if you can answer them, awesome. So you're talking about the NATO style filter, that 40 millimeter thread, right?
Yep.
What does that mean for us who don't really know about gas masks? We're looking for something out there. We want to probably look for something with that kind of universal thread on it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So obviously, like everything else with NATO, it's standardized. So anybody that's within NATO uses the same thing. That's like 5.56 is standardized throughout NATO. So we would go to the war in the middle of Europe. There's already stockpiles of 5.56 out there because everybody NATO uses them. So it's the same thing with the filters. Obviously, don't cheap out on gas masks. Whatever you do not buy a surplus gas mask. It's one of the worst things you can do. I mean,
was it because they could be defective, or?
Yeah, you don't know what kind of life they had. They have a lifespan anyway. Like the old Soviet gas mask and their filters, it's like you're breathing in straight asbestos. So not a good idea, and they were terrible designed anyway. There are some good, I would say good. Are some, I guess, big beginner level gas masks out there you can get surplus, but obviously if you're trusting your life with it, it's probably a good idea to spend the money. And Mira's gas masks are less than $300. So I mean, that's not a bad deal. And it's the same thing with filters. Make sure you're buying the right filters. There are only certain filters designed for NBC threats. So make sure you do your research there and make sure you're getting ones that are specifically designed for NBC threats, nuclear, biological, and chemical threats. Because you go out and you just buy a filter that's rated for dust and chemical vapor, it's not going to do you very well. I know that most radioactive and nuclear filters are going to have like activated charcoal and things like that in them. And there's actually a color code. I can't remember the color code off the top of my head, but there's a color code basically that tells you just by looking at it what the filter is designed to be able to do.
Great. Now, will these filters filter out tear gas?
Most of them will. If it's an NBC filter, it's pretty much going to cover everything under it for the most part. Like I said, double check. Like the one that Mira sells, I think it's the soft filters, what they call it. It's got the gray label on it. Mm-hmm. That one literally is everything.
Great.
So you'll be set with that one.
I mean, I would highly recommend out there, guys, if you're listening, and most preppers have gas masks like already, but if you don't have one and you're going to buy one, definitely think about that as well. The threat of tear gas, right? We saw that during the pandemic. Neighborhoods were getting tear gas, right? It's not an off the charts thing that could potentially happen. So a lot of uses for these things.
And CS gas and tear gas, it literally feels like your lungs are getting set on fire. It really hurts. Really.
Yeah, you would know, right? You've been tear gas, so
quite a bit. Yeah, it doesn't. You can find a way to push through it, but it takes some willpower to get through it. That initial burn, you don't want to breathe. You literally do not want to breathe. You'll try to stop yourself, and you got to. So
that doesn't sound fun.
Yeah. The good news is it clears out your sinuses. So if you're going through like a sick phase, you breathe that in for 2 seconds and it's all gone.
Yeah, I've seen videos, man, of guys just mucus coming out like left and right.
So that's the funny thing. So like with boot camp, obviously when you first go in, everybody's bringing in bacteria from different parts of the country and things like that. So right around the time you're going to go in the gas chamber, which I'm thinking Marine Corps boot camp, unless they change, it's like week 4. Right about that time, everybody's getting sick. Sinuses are all stopped up. So then I think they planned it like that on purpose, because the week you go into the gas chamber, it just clears everybody out and nobody's sick anymore. So it's a good time.
Yeah, I never thought about that, honestly. Going into boot camp though, like it would make sense that everyone gets fucking sick, man, because you're like not sleeping much, you're just getting the shit kicked out of you all day, you're getting beat up, right? And then that makes sense.
There's about 2 waves of sickness. Like I said, one in the beginning before the gas chamber, and then there's like one in like week 8 or 9, because you start doing like BWT and you get close to the Crucible. And I was at Paris Island for that, and it was just raining on us like a monsoon like crazy. So everybody was getting sick there.
It's tough, man, especially like the Crucible. What do you guys sleep like 2 hours the whole time?
Yeah, it's something like that. It's not too the events are actually kind of fun. They make it somewhat fun. So I mean, so you're happy to be there. Like I said, with us, it was like a monsoon, so it made it even more fun. I don't know why, it just did. If you're one of those people that like can have fun in that, you're like, hell yeah, this is fun, then we're having no problem.
Yeah, you're a Marine at that point if you can have fun training out in the monsoon, bro. Like,
yeah, it gets to that point.
So going back to the CBRN stuff, man, it's really fascinating that you were able to go through this course. I mean, it's not something, if I'm correct, that most Marines get to go through.
No, like I said, it was just a unit setup thing. I mean, so it's not like a designated course the Marine Corps has. I mean, it was just something that like either our battalion commander or somebody was like, hey, I want some more people that are specialized. I mean, because our battalion only had like 2 CBRN kids attached to us. I mean, throughout the whole battalion, we had 2 people whose actual job was CBRN. They obviously can't go around with 4 companies and keep them all in line and tell them all what to do. They needed more people. So somebody high up said, hey, I want somebody to come down and teach a course. That way our guys have a general idea of what's going on. I mean, obviously everybody goes through some sort of CBRN training, but it's not super, super in depth. So basically, they just wanted more people to have some extra knowledge to be there in the event that something happens. So we basically weren't running around looking like idiots. And we had a general idea of what we were doing. That's basically what this course was.
It's a great idea, man, because you never know what could happen out there, especially these days. So talk to us a little bit about, if you know, the auto injectors and chemical warfare and things like this with the sarin. I mean, is that something that you guys covered as well? How to mitigate the risks of being exposed to these things?
So going over like the chemical and biological stuff like that, I mean, most of it is obviously get your gas mask and your coverage on as quick as possible. I mean, so you're suiting up as fast as you can the second you see it, and just getting out of it, move out of the way, which obviously for us, you can't always do that. I mean, if you're in a fighting hole and you learn like methods of delivery, so like one method of delivery is there's mortars that actually have tanks built into them. They're designed to basically disperse this stuff. So when you're in a fighting hole, they might build a mortar and sarin gas on top of you and things like that. At that point, you call it out, you mask up first. Mask is obviously the first priority. And if you obviously we have intelligence reports come in ahead of time to tell you, okay, hey, we obviously know there's a CBRN out there. So we would already be in like MOC level 2, which is boots and the suit. And then you're already set up. So basically what you have to do is throw on your mask, put your hood on, put your gloves on, you're good to go. But for somebody like that, I mean, it's obviously cover up as fast as you can and get out of it. That's what I would tell the individual that's not in a military setting. You don't want to be exposed to it any longer than you have to be.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's good advice. Just get the fuck out of there. Is there anything that if you don't have a gas mask immediately available, is there anything besides fleeing the area? Like, would covering a t-shirt help at all or not really?
I mean, it's better than nothing.
Right.
At that point, you don't have much to lose. And depending on what kind of threat you're looking at, when it comes to the decontamination side, you also got to be careful. I mean, like some things, water with CS gas. For instance, CS gas, when it dries, it crystallizes. And that's going to be the form of tear gas that maybe some of the police departments or whatever are going to use. So when it dries, it crystallizes. Well, it's water activated. So let's say you get it on you and you go out of there and you're like, I'm going to get the stuff off me. I'm going to shower. When you shower, basically your whole body's going to be on fire because it reactivated. So careful with that kind of stuff. So whatever threat you're looking at, you also need to look at, okay, how is this thing activated? How am I going to get it off of me? So with CS gas, when it dries, a lot of times what we do is you get gas in the field and you obviously haven't showered in weeks. We would just take like dirt or sand and rub it on us, and it basically rubs the crystals off without activating it with water. So things like that.
That's a good tip. It really is. So let's kind of move into more of the nuclear side of things now, because this is unfortunately more of a threat that we have to be aware of, not paranoid, but aware of these days. So let's say that, unfortunately something happens in a city and we're not immediately within the blast zone. What are we thinking about at this point?
So the three biggest things, I mean, it's the motto when it comes to nuclear threats, and it's distance, shielding, and time. So obviously you want to be as far away as possible. You want to have as much time between you and the blast as possible, and shielding. So we'll go over the different types of radiation here in a minute. And obviously those depend on what kind of shielding you're going to need and things like that. But basically, the further away you are, so where the detonation happens, it's called the hypocenter. The further away you are from that, the stickier you're going to be. I mean, it's just plain and simple. Obviously, it's going to depend on the size of the size of the bomb when it goes off, but you still want to be as far away as possible. That's going to be your best factor there. And then time. So when it comes to radioactivity, or obviously in radioactive decay, that's what it's ionizing. So over time, basically, the threat level is going to drop, and it's going to allow you to be able to be closer to the hypocenter without being in danger as time moves forward. And then obviously a lot of shielding. So one of the types of radiation we're talking about is gamma. It's a ray, actually. It's not like a particle like the other ones. It actually takes like a foot or two of concrete to be able to stop this stuff. It penetrates material better than an X-ray will. So that type of thing, you obviously want to have something thick and dense between you hypercenter.
That would basically mean if you have a bomb shelter or some kind of basement with thick material, get down in there. At that point, now how far is this gamma radiation going to be a threat away from the blast zone? I mean, if it goes off in LA and we're all the way in Salt Lake City, Utah, do we have to be considering the gamma radiation?
Well, so here's the thing. We'll go back to the very beginning. So there's obviously going to be two types of detonation: air burst and ground burst. It's obviously going to depend on what effects the person's looking for that's delivering the bomb. An air burst is going to have more initial destruction, and then a ground burst is obviously going to have more long-term destruction. So the air burst is basically just going to flatten everything around it. There's not going to be a whole lot of radioactive fallout. Ground burst, on the other hand, you have a reduced initial blast, but it's going to create more radioactive fallout, create more long-term destruction, obviously, because you can't inhabit the area for a little period of time. So obviously the bomb goes off, we get this initial bright light. And what we're going to see here is a thermal blast wave. So this thermal wave travels out at the speed of light. It's hotter than the surface of the sun, and it immediately ignites everything in its path. And by a tenth of a second, this thing has already ignited everything in its path. As that blast wave goes out and it starts cooling down, or as this heat wave goes out and it starts cooling down, that's when you actually get the blast wave that knocks over the houses, which the thermal wave does that, obviously, if it's in the vicinity, but further distances away, it's just a blast wave. And at this time, as the bomb's exploding, what you're getting is one of the 4 types of radiation called neutron radiation. This is what initially comes out of the bomb. The other ones they're there, but they're not the threat right now. You're gonna get a lot of neutron radiation, these neutrons shooting out the speed of light all around. What they do is they interact with the nucleus of atoms around it. So anything it comes in contact with, sand, buildings, dirt, rocks, anything there is. And when it interacts with these things, a lot of times what it does is it'll add the neutron to it, and it makes that material radioactive. So that's the problem with, it's not just necessarily where you're at, or where you're at relative to the bomb, because it can make things travel further away than what you think. So it's ionizing and making things radioactive initially. The explosion and the blast wave are then carrying these radioactive materials up into the air. The jet stream and the atmosphere is then carrying them across the country. So that's where you can get radioactive fallout can actually go quite far. It's not necessarily just on the size of the bomb and how far away you are, because the jet stream can carry it clear across the country in some cases. And you can go actually online and look. They have some, basically some predictions that they made based on, if the bomb was detonated here and the jet stream carried it, this is how far it would go, and this would be the danger zone and things like that. But yeah, so it's not necessarily just dependent on how far away you are for that gamma radiation to be.
So I definitely want to get into fallout with you, because this, I think, is a really important part of what we're talking about. But we had a question from Ed Lee asking, how much warning would the average person have if an attack was imminent, and would they get an alert on their phone? I don't know if you know that or not, but
see, that's the thing, and that's actually really, really frightening when it comes to, like, I'm sure you've heard on the news about these hypersonic missiles that China and Russia have been designing. Obviously, you remember a couple of years back when that fake message got sent out in Hawaii about a nuclear bomb that was coming in. You remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, it was what, like 5 minutes notice, something like that.
Right.
With these hypersonic missiles, they're saying that they could hit the West Coast in like a couple minutes.
Shit.
Really, is that enough time for us to detect it? Well, obviously, you can't intercept it really at that point. I'm like, full disclosure, I'm not an expert on this. Like I said, I did a course. And like I said, I've been doing research on my own, so I took interest in it. But we would hope that we would get that notice. We would hope that we'd have a couple minutes. Obviously, if you're in the situation that you see a big bright light, the first thing you should do is hit the ground face down and cover the back of your head with your hands.
Okay.
Your ears too, if you can. That initial blast wave, it usually breaks bones, shatters eardrums. It's not a fun time. obviously you can go read some like accounts. There's a couple books actually about people that survived the Hiroshima and Nagasaki explosions. There's actually one dude who survived both. Lucky dude. The first one, he tells a story like he's seen a bright light and he jumped in a ditch. He's 3 miles away, mind you, from Little Boy. Little Boy was the smallest one. He was 3 miles away and he laid in a ditch and it picked him up and threw him.
Damn.
And it blew both of his eardrums. He had a whole bunch of lacerations. I think he had a couple broken ribs. And then he went to the hospital and for like a couple of days. And the next day he got bombed by the second one. So he was pretty. And there was one guy, and for life, man, I was actually trying to find it for this. And I could not find it again. I remember reading about it. He was 200 yards away, only 200 yards away from one of them. Didn't even get a scratch. He was in a basement, a deep, deep basement.
Huh.
He was perfectly fine.
Huh. Go figure, man. That's crazy.
So we would hope we would get that warning, but worst case scenario, I mean, that's immediate reaction. See a big bright light, drop to the ground, put your hands behind your head, try to cover you with something that's sturdy. But we would hope we would get that warning in that text message. But honestly, I mean, at this point, who really knows?
Yeah. Who knows? I mean, it's not set in stone that would happen for sure these days. So let's say we do. We get a couple minutes of warning. Our first reaction should probably be to get as low as possible, like in a basement or behind a very thick building or something like that. Is there any structures that we want to avoid getting inside?
Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, most important thing actually in general throughout the entire thing is shelter. So yeah, that should be your first thing is I need to find a very structurally sound place to get into. So obviously stay away from buildings that, I mean, most houses in the U.S. are stick built with 2x4s and drywall. There's not much holding them up. And I'm sure you've seen like the famous nuclear explosion videos where the whole house like literally just gets knocked over.
Yeah.
And because of their wood. So yeah, you want to find a sturdy building, cinder block, concrete, brick. Most government buildings, I think me and you were actually talking about this on Instagram. Most government buildings are like tornado shelters, and if you find some older ones, they actually used to be fallout shelters. Banks, a lot of banks used to be tornado shelters and storm shelters. They're mostly made of concrete. They're pretty sturdy buildings, so obviously they're made to be hard to break into. So those are places like that. So concrete buildings are sturdy. Big buildings in general, basements are good, always a good option. You can find a basement, that's a good option. There's also some charts online too. I think it was FEMA or somebody put them out that actually like, I don't know how they do it, but basically they ranked the risk based on the level of floor you're in the building. And surprisingly, you're safest in like the middle of a building. It makes no sense to me, honestly. But for some reason, they say you're like, if you were in a 20-story building, it's like story 12 or 13 that you're the safest in.
Makes sense, honestly, with the structural, the way that's engineered structurally. We got a question here. Is a 4-story underground parking garage a good place to hide?
I would say so, yeah, as long as it doesn't collapse. But yeah, I mean, that's the general rule across here is that, I mean, underground's always a safe bet. Stay out of mines. Mines are, well, I've read a couple of things. People were like, oh yeah, mines are a good idea. Mines are not structurally sound. They're abandoned. They have not been taken care of. I would not go in a mine. But yeah, I mean, a 4-story underground parking garage sounds like a good idea. I wouldn't go all the way to the bottom. It might sound like a safe bet, but I mean, if something happens, I mean, you got a long way to get up. Try to find your way out. I mean, maybe the second one down would be a good bet. It's probably where I would go.
Now, when we go down, and let's just use this for an example. We get the warning, we go down in this parking garage, we're on level 2, we're hunkering down. How long do we have to stay down there after the blast has taken place?
For 72 hours. 72 hours is a must. I mean, after first 72 hours, you do not come up at all. You should be down there the entire time. And that's the most dangerous times. Like I said, obviously, we're in radioactive decay. All these ionizing radioactive materials are in decay. So their activity is dropping over time. So like one thing we were talking about, obviously, was iodine tablets and how they're sold out everywhere. So iodine 131 is the radioactive element that will cause harm. So your thyroid needs iodine to function, so it absorbs it. It doesn't care what type of iodine it is. And the reason why it's dangerous is because this is a radioactive form of iodine, and so your thyroid absorbs it, and it's a good way to get cancer. It only has a half-life of 8 days. So if you're down there for 3 days, it's already dropped a little bit. 8 days, there's obviously only 50% of it left. So first 72 hours is most important. If you can stay on there longer, I would recommend it. So if you have enough time to get food and water down there, sleeping bags, covers, blankets, whatever, you can stay down there for an extended period of time, it'd be a good idea.
Good advice. Good advice. It might not hurt if you live, I don't know, in an apartment or something like that. Find the basement, stash some freaking boxes of food and water and stuff down in there. You know, depending on where you live, could save your life. You know, maybe even if you got an extra gas mask or something, put it down in there and then cover it with a tarp. Hopefully no one will look at it, right? So
contingency plans should always be in place. And so if this is a threat you're seriously worried about, you should obviously have a plan already made. This is what happens, so I'm going to do in this scenario. If I have this much warning, this is what I'm going to do. So maybe you have a perfect shelter, but it's 10 minutes away. So if you know, okay, well, I have 10 minutes of notice, I can make it there, then that's the one to go to. But if you're like, okay, I only have 5 minutes of notice, this is what I'm going to do. If I have no notice, I'm dropping to the floor and I cover my hands, the second I know I can get back up, I'm not injured, this is what I'm going to do. I mean, so there's different plans based on how much time you have. Time's a resource just like anything else.
you know that being a sergeant in the Marine Corps, man, I mean, pre-planning is everything. And that's how you guys are successful at what you do, I assume.
You should have a plan for everything.
Yeah. Now, how much time, just getting off topic a little bit here, how much time did you spend doing mission planning and stuff like that in your career?
So really with us, I mean, a lot of the mission planning we do is actually just for training purposes. I mean, so a lot of like your orders, we have something called a 5-paragraph order. So before every mission, that's what's get written. And it goes down in steps. So like a battalion commander is going to be like, hey, there's an enemy here. This is what I want done. That's called his commander's intent. So basically he's just telling you, this is what I want in game. He's going to pass it to his company commander and he says, figure it out. I'm going to let you plan it. And this decentralized command is the best way to run things. He's letting the little guys figure out how they want to do it instead of micromanaging from the top. So then the company commander is going to be like, okay, first platoon, I want you to take care of this. He's going to give that to that lieutenant. That lieutenant's actually going to be the guy who's going to write out the plan. He's going to bring in his platoon sergeant, who's usually a staff sergeant. He's going to help. He's also going to bring in his squad leaders, and they're all going to give a little bit of input. But for the most part, the lieutenant's going to be the one that's going to write the most. And then we're going to go back to the company commander and say, okay, here's our plan. We obviously need fire support. We obviously need comm support. We're going to need all these different things, and then we're going to piece it all together. So everybody has a little input, but it's usually your platoon commander, platoon sergeant that come up with most of it. If it's a platoon level attacker, and then if it's a company level attack, then it's going to be at the company level that most of it's going to be made. So the company commander, the company gunny, first sergeant maybe, but usually they don't have a whole lot of idea what they're doing. Being honest there.
So that's interesting, man, because, I always harp on what we're talking to my guys, have a freaking plan. Doesn't matter if it's planning your bug out routes or planning, like we're talking about now, your emergency actions or whatever it is, or even just going into a fist fight, right? Have some kind of a rough plan, even though they say the plan, never withstands the first punch, but having a plan is still probably for the better. So when we're talking about planning for an NBC or specifically a nuclear attack here, just to recap, because I think there's a lot of information to absorb here, and I think it's good to recap. I mean, finding a low place with a lot of concrete or something, a very sturdy place to go, whether that's in the center of a very thick building or that's in the basement, is probably the best idea. And stay down there minimum 72 hours.
Yep.
If you can stay longer, stay longer. If you don't have any notice and you see a white flash, hit the deck and put your hands over your deck and don't look at the flash and as soon as you know you're okay, get up and find somewhere else to go. Correct?
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Cool.
The second you're getting up, I mean, your priority is getting as far away as possible. So yeah, if you're hitting the deck, I mean, even if you find it's a temporary place that you're being sheltered for the blast, that you're still within vicinity and you know it doesn't offer proper shielding. So I mean, it's just sheet metal or it's just a drywall house. Still, your priority is getting as far away as possible, which in that scenario, most people would get that intuitively. Their house is probably going to be on fire. There's going to be, the windows will bust, things like that. They're going to know, I need to get out of here. But yeah, I mean, you're shielding yourself basically as much as you can, no matter what. That's the main thing here.
So now what do we need to be thinking about? We survived the blast, and it's 3-4 days later. I mean, is there any follow-up actions that we want to be doing? Or actually, let's say that we've survived the blast and we've managed to take cover after being exposed to it. Now, this is a question, how do we decontaminate ourselves?
So going to that, like I said, there's different types of radiation. 2 of them are particles. So we have an alpha and a beta particle. These things are going to determine how we're going to operate basically for the rest of the time until we get completely away from the radioactive threat. But as far as decontamination goes, chlorine's always a good option. You don't necessarily need it, but chlorine's always a good option. You don't really want to get your clothes wet until they're off of you. But then it goes back kind of almost to CS gas thing. Sometimes what we do is like we would tell them, our instructor would tell us, if you don't have chlorine, you don't have anything like that, rub yourself with dirt. So the alpha particles themselves can't even really penetrate your skin or clothing. That's how little power they have. So by taking dirt and rubbing our clothing with it, obviously you're still gas masked up. That's why alpha particles are dangerous because you ingest them. So by taking dirt and just rubbing our suit down, we were actually knocking alpha particles off of us and, in theory, decontaminating ourselves more. It's basically better than nothing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, these alpha particles can be taken off with dirt and sand and stuff in theory. Is there beta particles?
Yes. So beta particles, they have a little more power. They have a little more penetrating power. These can actually penetrate your skin in some cases. But they get stopped with like a few feet of air. There's 2 different types of beta particles. There's like a positive and negative. That just goes into like atomic particle physics and things like that. I mean, it's not really important for our scenario. But so beta particles are actually it's called beta decay. It emits a beta particle. That's what they actually use for like radiation therapy and things. They have the ability to like mutate DNA. They kill cells pretty much. So I mean, these are actually kind of dangerous. This is where you need that CBRN suit. That's where the CBRN suit's going to come in handy. Is usually they have some type of line to help stop.
Okay.
Trading.
So these CBRN suits, they do. This was always a question I had that no one's ever been able to answer. I said, why don't they make, like, the dentist things they put on you with the lead? Why don't they just make a freaking lead suit? Do they have something like that?
So the lead's really there to stop X-rays. So a beta particle will get stopped, like I said, with a basic CBRN suit. So where we passed alpha, we passed beta. Really, our next threat in the radioactive scenario is going to be gamma, which is way more powerful than an X-ray. So basically, lead is not going to help you much. Lead you'd have to have on the suit for it to work. It would be, you couldn't use it. I mean, you'd barely do a wall. It would weigh so much and it'd be so thick. So obviously, some's better than none. Like I said, a little bit of shielding is better than none. But I mean, it wouldn't be good for you, honestly, if you wear that much. You wouldn't be able to operate at all. I mean, if you're in a scenario, obviously in that scenario, there's going to be massive looting. People are going to be trying to take you for your stuff. You need to be able to be mobile, move around, run if you need to. Just wearing a lead suit would be good. And it's not really going to stop the X-rays that you're going to come in contact with, or the gamma rays you'll be coming in contact with.
Now, these gamma rays, the only thing that's going to stop it, like you said, is a couple of feet of concrete or something thick like that.
Yeah. So really the guideline is say this needs to be a dense material. Lead is a dense material, but usually when we use lead shielding, we use it thick pieces. I mean, yeah, concrete's good. We use water too. Water, for some reason, even though it doesn't have high atomic numbers, it's technically not super dense. It works really well for shielding against gamma radiation. That's what they use in nuclear reactors.
Mm-hmm.
So if you ever seen like the top of a nuclear reactor, it's like a 20-foot tank of water. Obviously, there's not going to be very many places you can hide behind a tank of water, but it also works. So, I mean, just keep that in mind. So the denser the material, the better. And concrete is activated by water. That's why it works so well.
Okay. Interesting stuff, man. I mean, so we're able to kind of mitigate these risks as far as alpha radiation. We don't worry too much. We scrub it off with sand or something. Beta radiation is a little bit more intense, but again, if we get ourselves behind something, some shielding, we should be okay with it. Now, is there any other way to decontaminate yourself from these beta particles?
I mean, so obviously, if you're not wearing a protective suit, they're going to be penetrating your skin. So basically, it'll be to the point you couldn't get them off. So hopefully, if you're coming in contact with a lot of beta particles, you have a suit. At that point, I mean, it should stop them. And we honestly, our suits in the military are like a one-time use thing. So you wear them till we obviously have like a set time. So anytime we would come back, we would throw away the suit. I mean, it goes through the decontamination process just so you don't mix up the alpha particles and get them thrown all over the air. But after that, I mean, it gets thrown away because the beta particles are going to embed themselves in the suit and things like that. So, in our kind of scenario, where it's just like a person trying to survive on their own. I mean, I would say if you, I know like Mira has, like if you've seen like those little thin reflective suits they have, you're wearing that till you get as far away from it as you can, and then you're shedding it. Like I said, it's one of those things. Something's better than nothing. And if you obviously have a suit, wear it till you can get to a safe place, and then you're stripping it off.
Now, when we take these suits off, is there a procedure that we want to go through or think about while we're taking it off, or do we just rip it off and throw it?
So, well, like we were talking about with the alpha particles, you want to try to keep movement to a minimum. You don't want to mix them up, get them in the air, because then you'll breathe them in. That's really the main way that alpha particles are dangerous. So yeah, there actually is a process. So the first thing you want to do is decontaminate your mask. That's going to be really, it's going to be the big thing. You want to decontaminate your mask. And then you can start stripping off your suit slowly. But you still obviously want to leave your mask on. You're just decontaminating it for now. You want to start taking off your suit slowly. You don't want to make a whole lot of big movements. Obviously, like I said, you can try to brush it off a little bit before you get to your decontamination station, whatever you're doing. So you can start like maybe taking off your boots. I mean, you're leaving your gloves on, obviously, if you can. You start taking off your suit, stuff like that. Then your gas mask should be the last thing you take off. You decontaminate it again and take it off last. But like I said,
yeah, that's important, man. Now it's striking me about how you're saying that these alpha particles are really only going to be harmful if they're ingested or if they're inhaled, right?
Think of it like dust. I mean, it's literally radioactive dust. It gets kicked up in the air, you breathe it in, you ingest it, and that's how it gets into your body. It doesn't have the power to penetrate your skin.
Now, if we had like an N95 or something versus nothing, it's probably, do you think that probably would be enough to stop these particles from getting your respiratory system?
Better than nothing. The main thing there is going to be a seal. So actual gas masks are made of butyl rubber. They're a little bit thicker than N95. They're a little more dense, but the main thing is they seal really well. N95, even a proper fitting one, doesn't seal the best. But yeah, I mean, it's better than nothing. The material itself is probably plenty thick enough to stop an alpha particle, but it's just necessarily that seal that I'm worried about. Facial hair is a big thing. Facial hair does not seal the gas mask. I learned that firsthand actually once. I got CS gas. My razor got all rusty, and it rained on us like a couple of days. My razor got rusty, and I'm like, okay, I'm not shaving with a rusty razor. I just had a little stubble, and I started breathing, and I felt the CS gas coming in. Yeah, so that's when I learned my lesson. You got to shave with a gas mask for sure.
Yeah, no, that's super important, man. I know on the fire department we have to shave every time we come in. It's mandatory, no questions, like no wiggle room there. We got a question here saying about applesauce. Eating applesauce, enough of it can help rid your body of ingested radiation. You ever heard that?
I actually haven't. I mean, I would do some research about it because there's a lot of crazy things like that work. That's something I'd look into.
Yeah, I will be looking into that. Now, do you take a shower with the suit on? Do you do a decon shower with the suit on?
So there are like some old time.
Damn it. It's about fire. Hold on a second. This thing is fucking annoying. I'm working here. I don't know, guys. This thing's been going off the past day. I'm just gonna check the hallway for smoke real quick. I'll be right back. All right, I'll tell you guys what. I'm gonna throw this on mute real quick if I can, so you don't have to listen to it. This is not stopped in about 3 or 4 minutes. We'll jump back on here in a little bit, but let me just see if I can throw this bad boy on mute for you guys real quick. And we'll be right back, hopefully. Brandon, do you have a little bit of time, or?
Yeah.
I'll come right back in about 3 minutes.
All right.
All right, hey, listen, guys. I see my neighbors getting the fuck out of the building, so I'm gonna do the same real quick. Apologize about this, Brandon. I don't know if you could hear me, man, but yeah, see my neighbors getting out of the building, so I'm gonna go ahead and do the same. I will send you an invite, or actually, I'll send you a DM on Instagram when I know what the fuck's going on here.
Alrighty.
Apologize about this, guys. Later.